Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
What up, y'all? It's Joe Budden, here to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win real money while watching football. You can get up to 100 times your money.
Prize Picks will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just download the Prize Picks app and use code SPOTIFY. That's code SPOTIFY on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Blame Me. Boo-doo-doo-doo. And my, what's that sound again? What's that called? What do you hit that? On the drums when you hit the metal cymbal. And my cymbal effects done by my co-host and producer, Melissa DeVons.
Hello.
Did I say my name? Hi, I'm Megan.
No,
Rinks.
you didn't.
Hello.
That's Megan Rinks.
That's Melissa. Melissa Diamond. Melissa Diamond. Mons.
Megan Rose.
I was like, don't say Rosette.
I was not going to say Rosette.
No, not even earnestly, but just trolling. I was like, I can't go there.
Yeah.
I have PTSD from that. Welcome to Don't Blame Me. We are an advice podcast where listeners call in, they leave us voicemails, and then we give our life-altering, life-changing, miraculous, fantastic, amazing advice. And our credentials, what we lack in credentials, we make up for in opinions. We give the tough love advice, that the kind of friend that you go to when you really need them to tell you the truth and just shoot you straight. That's us. We're not sugarcoaters. We give the advice that we like to see in the world. And if you want to call in for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. And international listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. And we ask that you let us know your pronouns at the beginning of your call. Write it down. Practice. Not necessarily, you don't have to practice your pronouns unless you want to, but like write down and practice what you're going to say in the call. You know, get it all out there so you can time yourself. Make sure you keep it under 3 minutes, or by the power invested in technology, you will be cut off. And if you keep it under and it's well rehearsed and just you don't leave out any details, the important stuff's all there, you will get a gold star from Melissa, which is hard to obtain.
It is. It rarely happens once in an episode. So
it's an elite club and you want to be in that club. And you got to be 18 or over, have your parents' permission to call in. And that's what you need to know for the calls in this episode. So what's new with you? Cute sweatshirt, by the way.
Thank you. I got it from Oaken Fort.
Nice. Video on Patreon, if anyone wants to see it. Don't let your sisters hear that.
Oh, they can hear. They haven't restocked in a while. Anyway, what's new with me is that I finally got my business name done, squared away. Diamond Imprint Productions.
Everyone go follow on
Instagram. Haven't posted anything since I just posted the logo. But one day it will be stuff up there. That's what's I also, the people at home can't see, but you can see I have the base to my boxing bag.
Oh, that is it.
It is comes up to my waist, maybe a little bit higher. And I have to fill it with water. So that has been my project every day. I have not even got it half full yet. And the thing is, it's black, so I can't actually see in there. I can't even. So what I'm doing is I have like a long string that I'm dipping it in to see where the water touches and how long it's getting down. And I'm not halfway full down there yet. So it's been a journey, but that has been my project all week.
This sounds like it would be like a biblical story or something, like the filling of water slowly day by day. I don't know what the moral of the story is, but I've also never read the Bible, but it does give me those kinds of like, I don't know, that kind of vibe.
Oh, the people in the video, you can't see it, but the people in the video can see. No. You can see the people in the video can see the bag that's just lying on the floor because I can't put it on the base right now.
I mean, I'm excited for you for once it's all up and done. You have to let me know how like heavy it is at the very end.
I mean, it like right now, I can't even move it. And I'm not halfway full, so it's going to be super heavy. But they say once the bag is on, it creates enough of an angle so then you can tilt it and roll it. Mm-hmm. So
I would assume. I'm curious. Mats and I keep talking about like, are we going to get like an exercise bike? Are we going to get like
maybe
something?
If I move, we can have one of my rooms dedicated to a workout and you can just come downstairs.
I know which room it would be because, I used to live there. Mm-hmm. So
I also looked at, because you can see pictures of it online, so I can look at it. So I saw it.
Yeah, I would pick the bedroom that faces the garden. Yeah. And then because you can open, it faces the front lawn. You can open those two.
The one where that's your equivalent to where Moss's office is. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Like that would be.
Oh, I already looked at it. I was looking last night after.
I wish we could evict my neighbors. It would be so nice, and we could be like, "I'm just going downstairs to the gym." And
then I can just pop up to the podcast room.
Yeah, it would just be.
It would make things so much easier.
Great. Like streamlines our whole life. Mom's gonna be like, post-pandemic, then neither of you are ever going to leave anywhere. Like there's nowhere for us to go.
Thanks. Love
I'm
it.
like, that's fine. There are certain things that we will keep with this pandemic, and not seeing other people is okay with me.
Think about what we could do in the backyard, the front yard. Like it would be beautiful.
I would love it.
Also, I didn't know a while ago that all the shrubbery around your place, it was very low before.
Yeah. The first time when I moved in to downstairs, it was pretty good, pretty solid. But by the time I moved out and moved upstairs, it was full. But yeah, pictures don't do it justice. Yeah. Either.
Yeah. But I mean, I know what it looks like. I was just seeing how much of a difference it was. It's basically just the downstairs area instead of for you. You've got the little downstairs.
The other thing I will say,
the kitchen's a little smaller.
The master's a little bit smaller, and the bathrooms are all randomly way bigger. Like the bathrooms are really, really big, but they're nice. But yeah, there's one specific bathroom that was I just remember it being very, very, very large. But yeah, everybody, put it on your manifestation board. Yeah, manifest that my neighbors move out and then Melissa can move in downstairs. It would just be great. And it preps us for when we eventually buy houses on the same street. Yep.
Same thing.
And we'll move out of here and then move in where we're next to each other. It'll be so easy and so great. I was also going to say, update, you have your vaccine appointment.
Yes, it's on the 30th of April. This episode comes out on the 26th, so I will not have it yet, but
you will almost have your first shot. And by the time this episode the 26th is when this episode comes out? Which is the day. This comes out yesterday from this episode will be the first day that I am fully vaccinated.
Yay!
2 weeks. 2 weeks. I am so
I thought you got
happy.
Johnson & Johnson. No?
Yeah, but you have to wait 2 weeks until it's full. That will be the day that I'm great.
I thought you had to get a second one.
No. Which, I mean, there's lots of stuff about Johnson & Johnson out now. I will say I have a vaccine highlight on my Instagram stories if you want to check it out, with lots of links to scientists and disease specialists and vaccine specialists and all of that.
It's just, we just got to do stuff just to test,
Exactly.
And that's it. And that's how science works. It's ever evolving, ever changing. You're continuously testing. I mean, even for Moderna, they're looking into having a booster shot by the fall. Yeah. So you do have to keep studying it to see how things change and testing, and you don't know until more people have had it.
Make sure when we're talking about these things that we're talking about them on a global level too, because a lot of things that don't necessarily affect America. And it's like, oh, well, don't worry. Like, we're in America. Like, whatever, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. We have all these other options. Like, there's a lot of other countries who don't. And so making sure that we're being cautious when we talk about those things publicly, because it can be pretty insensitive to countries who are now not having projected first vaccines until like 2022, which sucks. But that's the Panda Express for you.
Mm-hmm. Poot Lovato.
That's the poot. That's the Poot Lovato of it all. Well, yeah.
Oh, I do want to say, if people are watching the video, that I do have a sticker on my face for Zit under my eyebrow. Now that I've opened the blind, you can see it very clearly now. So just so you know that my eye isn't like something weird's not going on. There's just a Zit there.
I always feel like I have to do a disclaimer when I have a pimple patch on, because like it isn't super obvious what it is. So it's like, what's happening to your face? So yeah, I actually wore makeup because I didn't want to wear a pimple patch for the 100th time on the hole that I created in my forehead.
You look cute.
Thanks. I tried because I needed it.
So
went straight from vaccine side effects to the period. So, whew.
Welcome. Should we get into the update? Oh, wait. She ghosted us.
She ghosted us. But we talked about aliens, and Melissa and I just kind of hung out and talked. So for those of you who like just the M&M chatter, this is going to be for you. Well, everyone, our update ghosted us, which is what we deserve for being people who ghost all the time. So we're just going to like hang out and talk for the time that we would be doing an update.
Yes. So, I mean, we were talking about aliens.
Oh, yeah. I was like, which one are you going to bring up? Because there's a lot of stuff that we've
I know. I'm definitely not bringing up all of that. But we were talking about aliens.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you were talking about a real life alien that you knew. And I was saying how everybody has their own or not everyone has their own. We have this like universal depiction of what aliens look like. And I was wondering who came up with that original alien rendering, and do they know their influence that they have?
I mean, that's like one of the huge questions I now have about life, along with who discovered popcorn and were they afraid? Because like terrifying noises. How did it happen?
Same with who was like the first person that was like, ooh, we're drinking cow's milk. Like,
I mean, I'm going to say it. I think it was a pervert.
It had to be.
I don't know that it came from pure intentions. Like, I think I've never once in my life been like, hey, let me grope this animal and see if something comes out. Let me squeeze.
They would have had to stain like the mommy cow feeding the baby. And then they were like, ooh, I wonder what that tastes like.
Oh, yeah, that makes way more sense to me. That's less perverted. Yeah. In my mind, I'm like, they just were like, what does this do? Let me give it a squeeze. Okay, I'm looking up Little
Which
Green
one are you
Men.
looking at?
I said, who came up with the alien?
Okay.
So Little Green Men is a stereotypical portrayal of extraterrestrials as humanoid-like creatures with green skin and sometimes an antenna? Is that how you spell antenna?
Antennae may be the plural version.
I think that might be it.
Is it AE?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This term also is sometimes used to describe gremlins, mythical creatures. So today, these creatures are more commonly associated with an alleged alien species called greys, where the color is not green, but gray. During reports of flying saucers in the 1950s, the term Little Green Men came into popular usage in reference to aliens. In one classic case, the Kelly Hopkinsville sighting in 1955, two rural Kentucky men described as a supposed encounter with metallic silver, somewhat humanoid-looking aliens no more than 4 feet in height, 1.2 meters for our friends across the pond. Employing journalistic license and deviating from witnesses' accounts, the Evansville Courier newspaper used the term Little Green Men in writing up their story. Other media followed suit. Okay, so, oh, wow. Using the term predates the 1955 incident, England referenced Little Green Men or children dates back to the 12th century Green Children of Woolpit, which, though exactly when the term was first applied to extraterrestrial aliens, has been difficult to pin down.
Interesting.
Wait, that's funny. American author Washington Irving described lunatics, or men from the moon, Luna, as pea green in contrast to that's just racist. In contrast to the white people on Earth.
Is it?
Just everyone on... That sounds like that sounds like an incel who has never left his room and has only ever seen his mother.
Where were they from?
Let me look. I think it just said European, but let me look. Oh, in his historical satire, A History of New York, American author. A History of New York. That's in 1909. I mean, why do we need a satirical history book? I feel like we should just correct the ones we have now.
But that's kind of like The Onion is satirical news.
Yeah, that's true. I just mean, like, I feel like we need to have the accurate history pinned down and be universally taught before we start taking creative liberties with humor. So I was looking at someone's Instagram who like follows a bunch of conservative accounts, and then they also follow The Onion, and I was like, do they not get confused? Like, how does that work? How can you follow like both Ben Shapiro, like Fox News, and The Onion, you know, like, and be on the other side? Like,
because
not like
even like a lot of stuff with The Onion, they've come out with like it seems like an Onion article, and then it's actually the truth because of how ridiculous conservatives are.
Yeah. Like, it just is the epitome of like when people do those like jokes on TikTok, like saying something, they're like, oh, be careful, Fox News is going to play this on TV. Like, that's kind of the thing with The Onion, where I'm like, it's like that time that I did the Instagram post where I was like, oh, I'm so happy Biden won. And now we have vaccines in our water and birth control in our cereal and we're eating baby fetuses. And people are like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we know that this is the truth. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, like, it just must be so sad. Like, there's no humor. There's no jokes.
I mean, they are the jokes.
They are, but then
they're humorous to us.
They do exist for that, but then I wonder, like, who makes you laugh? And like, not in like a QAnon conspiracy, like, oh, I know more than you, haha, you sheep. Like, who genuinely makes them like belly laugh? You know?
Yeah. What was that character that was you might be a redneck if that guy?
Oh, Larry the Cable.
Yeah, Larry the Cable Guy.
They're like, why doesn't he have a Netflix special? He's hilarious. It's going to be like Larry the Cable Guy. And then any comedian who had since then come out with sexual assault allegations, they never cared about them at all. But as soon as they were like, they had allegations as soon as they were like, I love Louis C.K. He is very funny. I never thought he was funny until I found out he was a predator and now I must defend him. Like, it's without a doubt
but
has to be that.
Even with that, like, just like listening, they still wouldn't like Louis C.K. because
no.
stuff is very liberal, except for he's a fucking disgusting human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has to be that. Oh, and Bill Cosby. They didn't like Bill Cosby when he was doing comedy, but now they're like,
I don't know.
Cancel culture. Do you think they draw the line?
They draw the line because I think racism kind of
it does trump that.
Because then they're like, oh, look at this black man.
You're right. Yeah, there's really like, maybe this is why they hate Hollywood. The Hollywood elites. Nobody is catering to them and their humor. But again, what do you find funny? Like, I've seen like some people who like follow those memes for good Christians or like memes for conservatives, like conservative humor or whatever. And every time I look, I'm like, what? Like, there is no, like, I understand the joke. I'm not missing the joke. It's just that this joke is like not funny at all.
I just like Googled, are there any conservative comedians? And there's a thread on Reddit of people being mad that they're not. So they are mad.
Yeah, they're like, we have no humor.
It says, I feel like so many comedians now pander to the SJWSs. I don't know what that means.
Social justice warriors.
Oh, gotcha. Right. And liberals. Nobody makes fun of Obama. Nobody makes fun of the liberal sacred cows. Why is that? Everyday comedian, I can Sorry, if there's a typo, go figure.
Of course.
Every stand-up comedian I can think of is a complete leftist. Why is that?
Well, because humor is equated to intelligence and like, you know, critical thinking and having like a broad picture of the world and being able to have commentary. So that's the, like, how funny do you think you and your conservative friends are, sir?
Right. I had a 40% upvote with this, which is terrible.
There's a whole side of Reddit that like it's so like I only ever end up on there like if I'm like actually thinking critically, like when I'm searching for Bachelor stuff, I've like ended up there and I'm like, oh no, I have to like, that's why there are specific like Bachelor threads for, I think it's people of color who watch The Bachelor is like one of the only ones that I will read because like there's very few of like my former, let's state it here, former hobbies, which was watching The Bachelor. I don't really have a lot of things that intersect with like the conservative people. Like I don't have much in common at all. So like, but my satirical watching of The Bachelor, and in LA, and we've talked about this so many times before, same thing with like a lot of reality shows. That like people in LA watch them through a different lens of like, we're in the industry, we understand this. So there's something a lot funnier about this. It's this escapism from like the normal kind of things that like we work on and like we do. And everyone I watch it watches it with the same commentary lens on it that we like forget, or I forget sometimes. And I'm like, oh, I'm not the target audience. And the target audience is like my polar opposite. So like when I read these things, I'm like, oh, fuck, ew. Yeah. Ew. And that's like the great thing about the new post-political Taylor Swift that I'm like, I took my break when there was like, I was like, it's not a lot of her saying anything political. And there's a lot of people who like, I don't agree with, who are also fans of her. And like, I feel super uncomfortable being a fan of some, like sharing a common interest and like a fan. But now that she's been very political, now I'm like, oh, thank God you weeded it. Like now I don't have to weed this out. And like, I can look on these Reddit threads and all of that stuff because a lot of people feel like so betrayed by her that I'm like, good. Feel betrayed.
And it's not hurting her at all.
No. I'm like, we get to take her back. Like we reclaim her back. When I posted on my Instagram story, because I watched her documentary for the first time, and which I had my period, which was like a mistake. And people gave me shit for not watching it before. And I will just say, ADHD is hard for me to watch like a 2-hour thing.
I responded and I was like, didn't we talk about this before? And I didn't know. Like I responded to your Instagram and you haven't been responding to a lot of my Instagram.
I've been struggling. We'll talk about it later, but I've been struggling for a week.
But I thought that it was something completely different. So
what'd you think it was?
I thought it was a TV show, like a Hulu show that you were watching because you just put the like title and then you start talking about it. I was like, oh, I messed this up.
I know which one, but there are two different shows. I auditioned for a show called Miss America, which was on, I don't know if that ended up being on Netflix, but there is another one that sounds almost the same on Netflix.
Yeah.
But when I posted being like me when Taylor finally got political and Sophia Bush responded to it, she was like, same, like me too. And I was like, yes. It was like us being like, thank you. We needed you. Thank you so much. Please help, which was great.
Our one that didn't ghost us is here now. So
this is for the next episode.
Yeah. So bye, guys. I mean, we'll get into the episode when we come back. Okay. Bye.
Bye. We're back. Wow. What a great update. It's okay. We talked to them. They got a little confused about time changes, which I will say, full disclosure, I might, if you're listening, well, we'll probably talk to you before this episode is out, but I will probably roast you on your, lack of time change. Converting.
No, she'll probably hear this before we do it.
Okay. I love you. You're great. Your time change conversion. I just want to know,
where are you?
Yeah. Where do you live and where have you been? That's more of my question. So looking forward to talking to her though, because I'm excited to hear that update. But yeah, should we get into the rest of our episode? Get into those calls?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I hope you are doing well and I hope you are healthy and safe. I love the podcast. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 5.5 years and we've been living together 3 years. But for the last couple of months, I've been keeping a secret from him. I'm 27, actually 3 days younger than you, Megan. My pronouns are she, her, and my boyfriend is 3 years younger with he, him pronouns. We're both Leos and extremely committed and loyal to each other. I've always been the person to have a lot of interests and to never really know what I want to do with my life. Though I've never been a spiritual person and always thought spirituality was a whole lot of mumbo jumbo and kind of scary, I have been into astrology for a while. My interest into astrology led me to watching pick-a-card tarot readings on YouTube, and eventually I bought my own tarot deck. That was back in September, and now I own over 10 tarot and oracle decks with 3 more on the way. I keep them in a bag at the back of my side of the closet and some in my desk drawers. So my boyfriend doesn't know about this. At the start of my witchy spiritual journey, I started an anonymous no-face YouTube channel and a Tumblr. So I've been filming videos, taking pictures, and it has become this whole hobby and a way to take some time for myself. He doesn't think anything of this because I know he knows about my makeup YouTube channel. I also started an Etsy shop where I sell tarot bags that I sewed and crocheted, and that's been going pretty well. My boyfriend knows that I sell these bags, but he doesn't know that they're tarot bags, and he doesn't really understand why people want them, but he's just happy for me that it's going well. So the reason that I haven't told him is because I know he doesn't believe in this stuff, like not even a little bit. He already thinks astrology is bullshit. He's nice about it and he lets me do my thing, but it's not something that we can talk about. I don't think he will be mad or anything, but I don't think he will appreciate the lying since I've had the tarot packages delivered on his work days, or I'll just say it's another astrology book so he won't ask any more questions. I have one friend who is into the same things, and we were recently able to safely meet up and do tarot readings, and we talk about tarot and astrology all the time, and it's been just really nice to have somebody to share this stuff with. I know that my dad and stepmom, even though they won't believe in it, they won't mind, and it will just be another one of my kind of weird hobbies. But I know that I'm not going to tell my boyfriend's family. They're very nice, but I don't think they will understand this stuff. I want to tell my boyfriend, but I also don't want to tell him. I don't want him to judge me or be mad about the lying. I'm afraid that he will think tarot is evil or something, even though I like to think of myself as an ethical reader, since I don't claim to make any predictions, but I empower your free will and to make you feel confident in your decisions. I'd love to hear from you if, when, and how I should tell him. I've also added tarot readings to my Etsy shop because I've gotten quite good at it. So if either one of you would like a tarot reading, let me know. And I'd love to do one for you as a thank you for all the amazing content that you put out. Thanks so much. Love you.
I love to talk about myself. I would love a tarot reading.
I would love it too. We can schedule, maybe instead of an update one day, we do it.
I would die.
Yeah.
I also want someone, I want to have like an astrologist read our birth charts together.
Yeah. Well,
but like they can do I forget what,
like a compatibility one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but there's something where you can read, like we can do our own individuals too, but they do one. I don't remember what it's, astrologists and people who are into it know what it's called. I just am blanking on the name, but it's when you read people's charts, just like as what your charts do together and what they mean to like you as like a friendship, which I think is interesting.
Ooh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I have like some good advice and then I have some like a little bit toxic advice, but it's not bad.
Okay.
So like my good advice is just to like come forward completely, tell him that you like have been doing this for X amount of time and just be honest and say that you thought he would be like, you weren't necessarily like thinking that he would have a bad reaction, but you just were like self-conscious and like thought he might have a bad reaction, and yet you were just like just insecure about it and like a little nervous, and so you didn't want to like let him know because you're afraid of being judged. And then my little bit of toxic advice is just to pretend like you are just going to start doing this right now. It's not, but that's right. Like, it depends on the kind of, like, because I'm curious, and you can probably answer for this, not like specifically, but like you have more insight into this than I do. Like him being like, you don't want him to like get like like you don't necessarily think he'll get angry, but like he really doesn't believe in any of this kind of stuff. Does he come from like a religious background that like this is not okay? Because like I know that like with some like really, I don't know what the exact like, but people who are like very, very intense, I don't know, is it evangelical? Like who like are not like Harry Potter can't watch like those kinds of magical things. I think it depends if it's like, oh, he's just like not that into it. And like, did you feel like you were going to be like, he like might have thought it was like stupid and like, you're like, oh, I don't want him to think like what I'm doing is stupid. Or is it like, oh, is this something that like, how he was raised like directly disproves of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might not even be disproof because like my grandmother, who I forgot what denomination she is, but like she believed like wishes existed, but like the most like demon type thing, like can't even bring like playing cards into her house because she thought it was like connected to that. And like, like she was like, no, that's like Satan, do not bring that in. Like we couldn't even play fucking Monopoly at her house. That's like how but I'm just like, if you feel like that you had to like hide it from your boyfriend, is that like, if you feel like you have to hide anything from the person that you're in your relationship with, I think that says like something about your relationship, not just
good call.
Like on just like the base level of didn't know how he would react. Like, I feel like if you're in a relationship with someone, you should be able to share everything with them. And it might be like on a timetable where you share it. So like, or when you share it. So not just like you didn't know how he would react. Are there other things that like that you've done in your life that he hasn't approved of? And so like, I feel like there's something deeper there.
Well, yeah. I mean, now that you said, because the fact that you're like, he doesn't like, he thinks astrology is like stupid. He like is okay with he like lets me do it or whatever, or like he is fine with it, but like we just can't really talk about it. That's odd to me because like Mats isn't into like, you are both Leos. I am the kind of like Leo who loves astrology, like that stereotype where it's like, oh, Leos just love to read anything about themselves. And so like, that's that fun part. Like I'm not super into like all of the intricacies of it. And Mats definitely like isn't super into it, but like there's a lot of things that we don't have like as a shared interest, but like by no means is it something that like, oh, we can't talk about my interest. Do you know what I mean? Like I love Taylor Swift and like I constantly am like, I need to like teach you so that you will like this and you'll understand this or whatever. But like there is no, oh, I'm hiding that I'm doing this thing or whatever. So like that does sound like something as, I don't want to say this to like belittle anyone who's like in the like astrology community or whatever, because like also big fan of astrology. I like believe in all that stuff. I really like it. But something that is so, I mean, trivial in the in the nicest way possible. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not something that's hurting him or like that has like any sort of like. That's why I wonder what his background is of if there is like some part of him that feels like this is like not like okay based on like how he was raised religiously or spiritually, because it doesn't like that's something that's like so like the best way that people practice those kinds of things like are like just to like bring people clarity and like happiness and just insight into their lives. And it's just like it can be like very fun and lighthearted. It can be really healing for some people. It's not harming anyone, especially him. So having such a strong opinion on it, that like on that part seems a little odd to me. So you're right. It sounds like there might be something else going on, and you should never feel like there's one thing of being like feeling like slightly embarrassed about something or feeling kind of like stupid for doing something in front of your partner. But like that should immediately be reassured by your partner being like, don't feel stupid.
Right.
But then following through with like getting packages delivered when he's not there and hiding all of that stuff. Like it's not just this, like, it doesn't to me seem like an unfounded feeling that's like an irrational feeling because you're acting on it. Like you're then feeling like that. And then you're making all of your actions line up so he doesn't find out and you continue to hide and all of that stuff. Which, like I'm not a fan of hiding things, but I think you're right. I think there's probably a reason why you're hiding it. And if you're concerned that he's going to be upset because you're hiding it for like X amount of time, like this isn't like a family. It's not like you have a secret child somewhere. Like, I don't even necessarily think that like, oh, this is something I'm hide. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine
why for me. Like, why?
Yeah, I can't imagine he would be upset at you for hiding this because like but you're concerned that that's going to be a thing. So like, it does seem like there's something else there. And especially because she's like, his family wouldn't be into it. So I do wonder if, maybe he's no longer religious or anything like that, but like he was raised with those certain things that can feel like, oh, this doesn't feel like sit right with me, or like, you know?
Yeah.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. So I'm a big fan and love the podcast, and I need a little advice. So I am a Leo. I'm 19, and I'm currently seeing I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently seeing someone who uses he, him pronouns. He is an Aquarius, and he is 24. And basically, we've been on 2 dates following COVID guidelines, of course, and they've gone really well, and like we get along super nicely. There's great chemistry, and it's just really easy to be around one another. The issue is that we met on Bumble. That's not the issue, but my sister actually, when I was telling her about him, said that she had seen his profile a few years ago, and he had himself listed as a conservative. Now, from what we have discussed so far, like we've gone into a few serious topics. We talked about religion and things like that. And I don't get conservative vibes from him. It's like I said, my sister saw his profile a few years ago, so maybe things have changed, but I'm not really sure how to approach the subject because it's not really something you can segue naturally into in being like, hey, do you respect people's rights and things like that? So I was just wondering if you have any advice as to how I can bring up the subject in a natural way, because I stay pretty involved in politics. I'm very strongly a liberal and, of course, just believe in human rights as a whole. And I'm also part of minority groups, so it's definitely something that is on my mind. And I really like him, but I can't be with someone whose ethics don't agree with mine. So if you have any advice as to how to ask him about it or discuss it, I would really appreciate that, because I don't know what I will do if he does say he is conservative. Thank you guys so much. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. What's a 24-year-old dating a 19-year-old?
That wasn't my initial one, but my initial question is why? How does your sister remember someone she saw on a dating app from a couple years ago?
I probably could.
Really?
But,
like from a couple years ago?
Well, no, because I couldn't remember someone I swiped left on. Like, yeah, it would have to be someone that
was she
I had
talking
swiped
to
right
him
on
before?
talk to.
Yeah.
Maybe that would make way more sense. My first thing, I have really strong feelings about age gaps in relationships, and a 5-year age gap in a relationship is not massive. But I am curious why a 24-year-old would want to date a 19-year-old. I am not confused why a 19-year-old would want to date a 24-year-old. I'm never confused about that. I am always wondering why someone who is essentially in their mid 20s wants to date someone who turned 18 the year before and like can't legally drink yet. Like that just, I'm curious about that, because in this context, if he doesn't have his political affiliation on his Bumble, he is a conservative.
Yeah. I've started on looking through dating apps right now, and if they don't say liberal in their profile, I'm automatically taking it off. If there's nothing there, of course, if it's conservative, automatic, no. But if there's nothing there or it says moderate, no, thank you.
Those are both conservative.
Yeah.
Like if he doesn't have his political affiliation on his dating apps, like there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a conservative. Like, that's the only reason why. Like, that's it. Because, like, I don't know any guy who's, like, a staunch liberal who's, like, cool fucking some Republican girl. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm not going to keep this here because I don't want it to hinder my matches. Like, no. It's like, oh, I don't want to have this here because I don't want it to, like, not hinder my matches of the girls that I'm matching with, but, like, I don't want girls to rule me out because I wanted to keep it, like, quiet. So, yeah, I have friends who have dated guys who have, like, not, like, years ago, who have not listed their and this was, like, you know, pre-Trump. He who must not be named. And they didn't list their political views, and they found out later on. And it was like, oh, you know that I wouldn't have gone on a date with you if I had known this. And there's, like, now you're just being an asshole and, like, using us as a power move. So to me, the age gap, him going after a 19-year-old and not having his political thing on there, to me, that just says I'm looking to have control and power over someone. So personally, I don't think it's even worth it to have a conversation. I would just be like, I'm out, ghost, goodbye. But I think that that's me. And I think, like, you seem like you are, like, into this guy potentially. I
think an easy question is climate change. You can bring it up very casually. Oh, the weather outside.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would just be so straightforward.
Yeah, but I don't think she's that type of person. It doesn't seem like she's, like, the straightforward type. But if you do want to be straightforward, just ask him. Like, who did you vote for? What are your political beliefs? Yeah. And if he says something like, I'm a fiscal conservative, that's still no.
No, because that's, hey, I don't care about poor people. And that also in itself is a racist issue, not caring about poverty. But you said you're a part of, like, a marginalized minority group. I don't know the exact
minority
group. So I don't know if, like, some of your hesitation comes from the fact that, like, if it makes you uncomfortable and a little bit nervous, I would do it over text. I don't think that you 100%. Need to, I wouldn't do it in person. I would literally, like, do it over text and just be like, straight up, like, hey, I forgot to ask. I don't remember if you had, like, you can even lie. Like, I don't remember if you had your political affiliation, like, or I just realized, like, we've never talked about this. Like, what are your politics? Like, who did you, like, who's your political party? And that is, like, that's a question that, like, friends of mine who are on dating apps, even when I was on, like, dating apps, like, immediately it's one of the first, again, pre-Trump, one of the first 5 questions I would ask people. And that was people who already had, like, even people who already had, like, liberal, like, left, like, Democrat, like, liberal in their bio. I was like, what's your extent of that? Like, where are you? Like, where do you fall on the spectrum of, like, left? Because it's just important. And then someone who doesn't have it, like, it's point blank asking, because I think, like, yeah, if you're not comfortable, you can ask. Like, climate change is a good, like, way into it. But I would just be really aware of how he talks about it and the words he chooses and how he says it. And if there's any sort of, like, laughing or, like, belittling or trying to move on, like, the fact, too, that he also hasn't asked you your political beliefs, that to me is also a red flag. Like, you should care about my politics as much as I care about yours. So,
yeah.
All signs point to conservative.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, when you get back in the game, if, you know, this guy isn't the one, just if this is how you feel, if they don't have it listed on their profile, it's just an automatic no. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to treat it, if it's important to you, which it should be, you need to treat it as if they don't have a picture. Because, like, it is like if we're going to care about what someone, like, looks like, we also need to care about, like, how they use their moral compass to vote and support people and all of that stuff. So, and, like, it can be like, you just got to get it. And, like, that's I think weeding those things out before you get in situations where you're like, oh no, I really like this person. What if they have X, Y, and Z feelings about it? But I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. All signs point to conservative to me.
Talk about the elephant in the room.
That was fucking great. That was so good. I was just like, I couldn't even laugh. I was just impressed. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Great one. Round of applause.
Thank you.
But yeah, I also just think in general, I think age gaps in relationships, 5 years doesn't really matter once you've turned to like, I think once you're in your like over 21, I think like,
if you can't legally do things together, that's kind of an issue for me.
Yeah. It's just, and it's not even necessary. Like, again, like the thing I have to stress to people who are in these relationships when they're like when women are defending the relationships and their partner is a lot older than them, I'm like, you don't need to tell me why you're into them. I completely, like, that's fine. I need to know what, like, tell me why that they are into you and like attracted to you specifically and like why they want to date someone your age. Like, why? You know, it's just like life. It's that kind of like, once you've lived that life and you've like lived through, you've been through that age that person has been before. And you're like, oh, I want to date someone who's in that headspace or mindset or where I was. Like, what, are you still there? Like, what, like, right. What is that? Like, it's just odd. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We're back from the break. Let's get to the rest of the calls.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I am a 22-year-old Leo and use the she series pronouns. And I am friends with a 22-year-old Sagittarius who uses the he series pronouns. So a little backstory on our friendship. We went to elementary school together. We weren't really friends, but it was a small enough school that we knew each other and interacted often. Middle and high school, I went to other schools while he stayed in our town school district. Fast forward to sophomore year in college, I became friends with a girl who also knew him from school, and that's how me and him reconnected. We have now been very close friends for 4 years. However, we've been long distance. He has lived in California and Nevada, while I have stayed in Michigan, our home state. Recently, we took a trip to Arizona, just the two of us. This was the first time in 3 years that we've seen each other in person. To say that it was the greatest trip that I've had in a while would be an understatement. It was super chill, easy, and comfortable. It honestly felt very familiar to me, even though we hadn't seen each other in person in a while. It was kind of almost like we were dating. I guess I had some feelings come up that I hadn't felt in a long time, and now I can't stop thinking about it and wondering if I should tell him. The only problem is that years before, when we first started our friendship, I told him that I liked him. He said he didn't like me, but we stayed good friends. I've had other relationships since then, and he has been there through all of them. But that first rejection really has me hesitant to say anything now because I don't want to embarrass myself again. But these feelings are low-key eating me up inside. What should I do? Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
I don't think it's necessarily what you want to hear, but I think when we like reveal our feelings to someone and they don't reciprocate, that person doesn't forget that. So like if they had then feelings come up, I think if he reciprocated the feelings, you guys would have hooked up on the trip. You know, like I think taking a solo trip with someone, like I think there's a very small rom-com chance that like he has feelings for you now and like doesn't know how to like bring it up. And like this trip was like this whole same thing for him, same parallels. But I think it's equally, if not more likely that he and you were able to take this trip from his perspective of the fact that like, oh, she used to have feelings for me before, but like we're still friends and we're cool now. So like this trip might have meant something if I took it with like another like single female friend, but like her and I have a different kind of relationship. And it's like,
yeah, I want to know how you guys were acting coupley. Were you holding hands? Were you cuddling? Were you making out? Like, how were you acting coupley? Because if it was just that you guys like went and had a good time, that could you substitute any friend in and it would be the same type of thing? Because I think that could potentially tell you.
That's true.
Also, maybe let's say he has kind of like developed feelings for you and he doesn't know how to broach the subject, but also you did mention that you guys are long distance. So like, even if you were to explore dating, like what's the end game here? Are you going to move where he is, or are he going to come to you? Because, you know, we always talk about if something's long distance, you still have to have an end game. So, I mean, you could tell him again if you really want. I think, you know, what's the point here? Like when you told him that your feelings before, have you been like, has there been a part of you that has been holding on to this friendship because you could potentially see it changing to more in the future? Or was it that you just wanted to be his friend? Because that thought could be romanticizing, like, hey, like we went on this trip, we had a great time. Maybe now he has come around to what his feelings are.
Yeah. No, it's true. Because I mean, we never recommend, if you have feelings for someone, staying friends with them without taking that break to then no longer have those feelings. So you're right. I think those feelings have just kind of stayed there. And there is a huge possibility that it's been kind of hoping and waiting for him to kind of catch up to where you are. Yeah, I think like, yeah, you can say something, but like you do fully run the risk of embarrassing yourself again. But I think that regardless, either you embarrass yourself and then you have to take a break from this friendship to get over it, because you didn't do that before, and like now it's 3 years later and you still have feelings for him, or you don't ask him and you just let him know, hey, this trip was really fun, I had a great time. It has kind of like just made me really realize that I never stopped having those kinds of feelings for you, and like I love our friendship and I really want to be able to stay friends, so I'm going to need to take a break from our friendship for a bit until I can like really get over this and deal with this and process this so we can be friends again. I will be on. I think that's what I would do, because that also gives him the opportunity to say, hey, I have feelings for you, if he does. And I think that's a little bit less, because I will also want to, like, we have to honor our feelings and tell people how we feel and all of that. You've already done that to him once. And it's pretty hard to hear that as someone, if you don't have those feelings anymore, that it can kind of feel like, well, now I feel really like shit. Like what do I do? And all of that. So like, I think you've already done that once before. You know how much that feeling sucks. It obviously sucks more for the person who's saying it, but it's not a great thing to hear from the person who's on the receiving end who doesn't feel that way either. So I think if you just like let him know how you feel in like and because of that, I need to like take a step back. But you're right. Like, how were you acting coupley? And I would also say switch in. Switch in if you are like, if it was me and like a heterosexual person, like I would have to imagine switching in one of my guy friends, and then I would switch in one of my girlfriends, like switch in something that's like those kinds of like, how would I act there? Do you like, because like I wouldn't cuddle with any of my like straight, I mean, I might cuddle with some of my straight guy friends. No, I wouldn't. Not like friends, only like someone who'd be like it's like I'd fall asleep on Leo, but like not in like a sexual way. Yeah. But like I'd cuddle with Kyle, but like that's a different. Also,
Kyle is gay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's also like Kyle's gay. Like we cuddle all the time. I sleep in his bed. And then like Kyle and I will hold hands. Sydney and I will hold hands. I wouldn't hold hands with like a straight guy friend, but I mean, it just really depends. So like switching in someone who you feel really comfortable with in a purely platonic way. Like don't pick like a random friend who you're like that, like, oh, that would be weird. We don't do that. Like, is there any friend that you have that you would do that with? Because that can, and are you making it mean more because it was him? But again, if you're like kissing though and like making out,
then go for it. But
and if you're holding hands, also here's the thing though,
if you're like hand holding too, clasping or interlocking fingers.
True. And he knew that you used to have feelings at like prior. So like if there's any sort of crossing that friendship line of like physically, that to me, it's like either you have feelings or you're a fucking asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he might think that like she's over it and then he missed his chance.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just like such a move, you know? Like if he puts his hand on your thigh or something, I'm like,
yeah,
that's intentional. But again, yeah, you're right. If it's just like, we just had a really good time. We just like talked all the time. Like we traveled, like couples travel, just us two, and like had great conversations, went out to dinner every night and all of that stuff. Like if there's no like physical like things there or things that differentiate it from a friendship, that's hard. Cause like, yeah, Sydney, I'm like in my head, I'm like, Sydney and I, when we went to like New Orleans on our trip together, we're holding hands the whole time, like so happy, but we're also like not fucking, you know? So like there is like, we're sleeping in the same bed, we're cuddling, but like we're not having sex or like making out. But I'll do that with moths. Like there is like a difference there. So yeah, I would love to get some more details.
Yeah. And I think you just need to be honest with yourself too. Like, I think you have to tell him now that we're talking more. I think you have to tell him because either you're just going to be holding on to these feelings forever or not. And I think you need to have some type of clarity so that you can move on and stop romanticizing this.
History has shown you that you haven't been able to do that while maintaining a friendship with him. But yeah, you have to. But I think the best way to do it is just telling him as a precursor, which is why I need to take a break from our friendship, because at this point, he hasn't given you necessarily any concrete reason to believe. Like, I think that the ball should be in his court to be like, hey, I have feelings for you now. And he's not doing that. And like, either it's because he feels uncomfortable or he's too nervous to do that. But on the chance that he doesn't, like putting yourself both in the same situation where you both have already been and like you already know how that feels. I just think like taking that power back and be like, so we're going to take a step back, blah, blah, blah. That gives him the opportunity to say something if he wants to. Next.
Hi, Melissa and Megan. I'm 28. My husband is 28. And the additional man in this story is 24. Around the end of 2019, my husband told me he had started fantasizing about seeing me with another man. We got married at 19, and we have only been with each other. This was surprising. I had no interest in it, but wanted to be open-minded, so we continued talking about it and started incorporating it into dirty talk. It's worth noting that our marriage didn't have a great foundation, shocking since we got married as teenagers, and I was more and more noticing issues in the way we communicated and our unbalanced power dynamic. After a couple months of this, I created a Tinder to test the waters. I ended up clicking with a guy, and we started talking fairly regularly. My husband was getting off on me ignoring him to text this guy, and I was enjoying the attention. When things seemed like they were progressing past the hypothetical, I told the Tinder guy that I wasn't ready, didn't want to waste his time, and called it off. Fast forward through 2020. My husband and I got into therapy, both separately and sometimes together. We did a lot of work on ourselves and our relationships, and I'm really proud of our communication now. We started exploring a kink on my terms, and I was finding aspects that I enjoyed. Then, at the beginning of this year, I got a text from the Tinder guy. We went back and forth very innocently for a week before he asked me if we had gone through with the sex in front of another guy. I told him that it had ended with him, and we started the flirty texting again. I started researching non-monogamy and sex-positive podcasts, and at some point realized that I actually may want to do this. A definite aspect of my change was feeling comfortable with the Tinder guy. I knew I didn't have romantic feelings for him, but I felt like I could trust him. The three of us met on Zoom, which I expected would be the end of it, but I surprised myself and decided I wanted to go for it. We picked a date when we would all be vaccinated, set a location, and I was getting excited. I did notice that both the men seemed a little more apprehensive, and the Tinder guy was less flirty. He mentioned a few times that he was getting nervous. A week before we were going to meet, he said he still wanted to have sex with me, but was too nervous about the audience and canceled. My husband also admitted that he thinks the role-playing is enough for him. I've been bouncing back and forth through all of the stages of grief, as dramatic as that sounds. I'm frustrated that I did all of this emotional work and breaking down and rebuilding my beliefs about sex and relationships, and for what? I've also been feeling some guilt and shame around wanting the Tinder guy, even though my husband has assured me that he loves me and I did nothing wrong. I need advice on how to reframe this experience so I don't feel like it was all for nothing. Also, how can I get over my desire to sleep with this other guy now that it's no longer an option? Thanks.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Because at first I was like, you guys are doing this without any, like, with your foundation being shook.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to just say, go to therapy before you even explore. But then you said you did go to therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about like kinks and things. You kind of like it's a fantasy in your head until you actually start going through. And I think you guys did take like the necessary like steps. You kind of edged your way to each step of exploring this, and then everyone realized that it was, except for maybe you, that, you know, this is where my boundary is. Like, I think your husband kind of just likes the being able, like, he thought he would want to watch you with someone else, but instead it was more like the excitement of listening to you and talking while you are talking to another guy. So he realized that that was his actual boundary. And I think it's the same for the other guy. It's like he was kind of testing the waters, figuring things out. And then when it came time, he was like, no, this isn't for me. I'm too nervous. And then for you, it was like you were kind of more nervous in the beginning, but did your own exploration and research. And you're into it now, but now your partner isn't.
Yeah. I'm doing that thing that everyone hates when I do on the podcast, where I'm like really analyzing your language with this. And you had said earlier on that part of the issue with the communication was power dynamics in your relationship. And part of me, how you're responding to this, like ending now, kind of like being not the grieving part, but the part of like being more kind of like upset that you did all of this for something that he ended up not wanting and all of that. I want you to like figure out like, what are you upset? What's like the percentages of your upset by? Like, are you upset because it's like, not upset, like, are you disappointed because like part of you are saying like, I'm disappointed because like I wanted to have sex with this guy and like now I'm like interested in all of this. But there's also still that kind of power dynamic of like, this was a kink that you weren't into, that you really pushed yourself to be into. That is there a part of you like that is truly into this and has been this like great exploration? Or is there a part of you that is like, I'm pissed off because I put in this work and really changed how I felt for my partner, and that becomes kind of convoluted, that like there is more of like an upsetness and anger here because of like the sacrifices, quote unquote, or the shit that you did to get to his level and then have him not be there. That to me still kind of says a little bit of a power imbalance, which like would make sense because this started before you guys were in therapy and before you really worked on this. So like this to me kind of sounds like a pre-therapized version of both of you. And then it's carrying on to afterwards. I don't know if you said you guys are doing like some therapy together. This is something to talk to a therapist about. I'm not sure that like maybe that kind of thing for him was like a power trip that he was into before. And now that he's done some more work in therapy, and like not saying that that's like a bad thing at all, but like lots of kinks have different like origins of like, oh, this makes me feel really in control. This makes me feel powerful or whatever. Maybe that was something that like the power imbalance in your relationship, that was something that he was really like that was like a very attractive thing. And now he's done more of this self-work and that's not something he's into in the practicality of it. But I think like beyond all of those like intertwining things, this is how, like you said, this is how like kinks and stuff work. And it's understanding that this is also why we say like, don't ever like pass your own boundaries or do something you're uncomfortable with for the sake of someone else, because it's also like, you don't know until you're in the moment and doing all of that stuff. And it needs to be both people are equally as excited and all of that, that it does feel like, is there more resentment there to the fact that you really changed how you feel about it? Or is it more, oh, fuck, I've learned so much about me and now I'm wondering if my relationship, we're not on the same page with things. And now I've opened up this Pandora's box of what I'm into that I now can't close. And I'm in a relationship that isn't going to fulfill those needs and feelings. Because that's also valid. That happens, like, especially when you've been together since you were 19, like you got married. Yeah, married at 19. That like you guys have been together for a really long time. That once you have a chance to explore non-monogamy and all of that kind of stuff, I think it's just about figuring out what of this is I'm upset because
I opened myself up and he didn't.
Yeah. Or oh, I'm upset because like I'm upset at you because I did all of this for you. And I don't mean this in a bad way. But, like, I'm upset I did this like for you. And then for fucking what? Like, I did all of this. Or is it like I'm upset that like I did all of this work and I've now figured out something about me that I'm into that now puts our relationship in jeopardy. And like, and if this had never happened, then like I would be blissfully ignorant to knowing this is something that I'm into, which I would say if it's the latter, I wouldn't say that you like people discover those things. Like there are so many people who are in like long-term heterosexual relationships who realize that they're bi, or they realize that they're pan, or they realize that any of those kinds of things that like they come to, like, I don't want to say come to terms in like a negative way, but they start to like, you can learn a lot about yourself and your sexuality in a relationship that is not what you find out that you're into or you find out you're attracted to. And that's okay. So if this was the way that you had to find out that this was something you're really interested in, and then maybe this relationship that you're currently in is not the right one for you, that's fine. But also at the same time, if it's just, I did this thing that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with for you, and now like this...
It's opened my eyes to something that I am into. And also, I think part of it too may be that you have never been with anyone else. And so now you were excited about, you know, tasting someone else.
Yeah. But I talk about this. This is like exactly what a couples therapist is for. Yeah. Because it's also like being able to like unpack the origin of like what specifically turns him on about those like specific things. And yeah, because like once you involve other people in it, it is, yeah, it's a fetish has to involve all consenting parties. And like it can be hard if what he's actually into is like talking about doing it, but not actually doing it. That's going to be pretty difficult if you can't just make it up. And like, oh, I'm pretending I'm talking to somebody else that we're going to do it with. But like, if you literally rope in a third person to like...
Unless that they're into it too.
Exactly. Like you all have to be on the same page.
Yeah. And I think it had kind of fizzled out until, you know, it seems like this other dude kind of got bored during quarantine and messaged and was like, hey, did that ever happen? And then he got excited. And then he realized that it wasn't something he actually wanted to do.
Yeah. So I think like the way that you had a conversation with your husband at the beginning of like your boundaries and like what you were comfortable and like, okay, we can do this texting thing and finding a way to do all of that. I think now that you have to have that flipped conversation about like, okay, so what are you into? Like, and it is a trial and error in figuring it out. And we can't hold animosity towards people for thinking they might be into something and then taking it back and then like being like, oh, I'm actually not. Cause like it is a whole discovery process, but you also have to honor your feelings and if it
and wants and desires and what you're willing to hold back now that you've unlocked something.
So also, yeah, I mean, I would have that conversation and then definitely have that conversation with a therapist. Okay, so Don't Blame Them is where a listener calls in with their own advice from a call that we've already given advice on. So you listened, you're like, oh, I have something to add. I have some insight, personal experience, maybe just another bit of a bit of perspective.
All right. So this is from season 7, episode 20. The original caller was someone who had called in saying that her boyfriend had like softly proposed before and now says he doesn't want to get married. And so here's someone sharing their own advice.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I am calling for the Don't Blame Them for a caller on Season 7, Episode 20, the girl who said her boyfriend proposed and changed his mind. My now fiancé and I have been together for 6.5 years and have lived together for 5. For the first 2.5 years of our relationship, we always talked about marriage, a proposal, children. Suddenly, a time hit where he said he liked our lives and we didn't need a piece of paper to show people he loved me. We talked about it a lot. I let him work through his thoughts and feelings. And wouldn't you know, 1.5 years later, he took me to Nashville and proposed. I think it is a common phase men sometimes go through, as my best friend's now husband was the same. Communication is everything in a relationship. Talk it through, help him figure out what he wants, and hopefully you guys land on wanting the same thing. Good luck. I wish you all the best.
I'm curious, though. I am always curious with these people. Like, did her fiance, was it a ruse? Or was it just
it seems like he got cold feet and then they talked out the feelings for why he had them, which is, the advice that we gave is you should talk to him and figure out why.
I mean, 2021, end the idea that marriage proposals need to be the biggest surprise in the world.
No,
that getting engaged. The proposal can be a surprise. The engagement should not be a surprise. Yeah. It just stresses me out for everybody. Yeah. Would love to know the update of that, but I'm so nervous if it's just like didn't go well, It's always so bad when it's like, here's the it's either like they're gonna propose or like they're not. Like, that always stresses me out. Well, that is it for our episode. Hope you all enjoyed. If you want to call in for an upcoming episode, leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. Again, keep it under 3 minutes. Write it down. Practice. Please be 18 or over. Have your parents' permission. Let us know your pronouns and put as much detail as possible. And if you have an update for us, please send us an email.
Yeah, send us
an email. Let us know you got an update, and we would love to have you on the show. We have changed the Instagram handle from Don't Blame Mean Pod. So sorry, RIP. Everybody's like, what? It is now by Megan and Melissa. And a lot of people are wondering if we're rebranding the show, this current show. We're not. Much like Marvel, we are expanding the universe. And we will be sharing that Instagram handle with some future projects that we've got in the works.
Yeah.
It's not the last you'll see of us.
What if we were like, and we like changed the name and we're like, this is the last that you'll see of us, and then don't post ever again. And
they're like, what? Goodbye. And we change it to VYE. Bye.
Yeah.
That would be so funny. So we're excited. We will obviously let everyone know when the things. And if you are in our Patreon, you've been getting little sneak peeks and us talking about stuff that's happening. So if you would like to join our Patreon, our videos are there. It's only $1 a month for all of the video episodes and video versions of the podcast. And then it is $5 a month for the live streams, which is where we talk about everything, anything and everything. Taylor Swift albums, Meghan Markle, life.
Yeah.
Last time we talked about nudity in television shows and movies and what it's like to film that.
Forgot about that.
We talked about Snatch Patch. That's what Kurchi named it. And yeah, so if you want to check out Patreon, we're also on Stitcher Premium ad-free, but leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app if you like the podcast. It always makes my day to see some nice reviews there from
Should we read a nice one?
Oh, yeah. Is there a nice one to read?
Yeah. All right. Here's a review from someone called M. Jones 1A3. Says, all-time fave. I've been listening to this podcast on and off since Megan kicked it off in a YouTube video. Megan and Melissa, you spell my name with 2 S's, but I'll forgive you, never, in all caps, hesitate to make me laugh out loud. And I'm not pretending when it's really a nose exhale, a real laugh. They also talk about serious issues intelligently and with nuance, while also having fun and giving good and honest advice. I could listen to them just chat for an hour, but that along with excellent, unqualified advice, incredible.
Aww.
I'll be a forever listener.
That is so nice. Thank you.
That was really sweet.
It really does make my day and like to see people who like the show. That's like one thing I'm very proud at. We don't have a high turnover rate of audience. Like people like listen and have stick around, which makes me really happy to like hear that people are like, oh no, this is like something I've listened to since the beginning and all of that stuff. So if you would like to leave a nice review, it helps us out. Also downloading the episode. Make sure you're subscribing to wherever you subscribe to podcasts. That also helps us out so we can pay some bills.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. That really like made me, when someone just like gets the show, that makes me very happy.
Well, because then it feels like everything we're doing just translates completely. Because it's like, we're on the same page. And then, oh yeah, they're on the same page too. Like, great. Like we all know what we're doing, which is nice. And, you know, the negative ones can be so loud. So it's always nice to focus on the positive ones. So what do you, people should follow? I mean, follow both of our personal Instagrams, but also go follow Melissa's new business.
Yes, please.
Everything's listed in the show notes.
Also listed like in our profiles too on Instagram if you don't know where to go to specific things.
And if you are able to, please get vaccinated.
Shoot it up.
Shoot it up. Shoot it up. And I'm not saying if you want to. It's if you are able to.
Because I am able to. I want to keep people safe, but I also have a severe phobia of needles. It will like so much that I've got gas to get my wisdom teeth taken out, and I fought through the gas for them not to put the needle in me. That's how much of a phobia I have. They had to physically hold me down while I was gassed up. To make me, but I will be getting vaccinated. I will be having a buddy come along to physically hold me down. It will be great.
And I told you this obviously like off air, and I've talked to a lot of people because people have asked about like phobias of this. I'm not like to your extent of like that fear of it. Mine's more of like we've talked, my body reacts. I don't necessarily psychologically think about it like that, but by far the quickest that's ever been. Like it was like the most, it is the absolute quickest. So it's always the lead up that is like the part that's that, but just knowing that once it's completed, it'll be the quickest one ever. So, but yeah, thank you to everybody who has been vaccinated, who's doing all of that stuff. And we appreciate everybody. Still wear your mask. Still keep everybody alive. Don't kill your grandma and don't kill Betty White.
Every time she's trending on Twitter.
It's cruel.
But now Twitter has started. I don't know if you noticed. They said she's not
Betty White is not dead. The fucking headline. Like when you look on the trending tab. Before
you even click on it.
She's not dead.
Before you even click on it. It's in the subscript.
It's so funny. Yeah. Okay. We will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me, executive produced by Melissa D. Monts, edited by Katrina Henning, and music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone. So we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.